This is section 12.5, problem solving with the normal distribution. The following chart gives us a relationship between percentiles and z-scores. Now, the ones we were dealing with in the last section, those were all nice, neat scores, and we could get information from the 68, 95, 99.7 rule, but we're not going to have quite that option here. So we have this chart that does a lot of the work for us. Basically, if you're given a z-score of, say, 1.2, you can use the chart to say, well, that 88.49% of all the data items are below this. So you look up your z-score, and this gives you the percent of things that are below it. I do have this chart separate from the notes. So if you look under blank lecture notes or under the videos in Blackboard, you'll find a link to this if you want just this separate. Okay. Now, basically, this chapter is arithmetic using this chart. It's not bad at all. Start off. Find the percentage of data items in a normal distribution that lie A, below, and B, above the given z-score. To find below, what you're going to do is you're going to go find this number on here and write down the number that's going to be your percentile. So 0.8 is right here. So 78.81% of items are below that given score. Okay. Now to find how many are above that, for part B, you do 100 minus this. Okay. And you get 21.19%. Okay. Now, I do want to show you a trick. This is not discussed in your book. And in the homework, sometimes they will provide you with like a smaller version of this chart. But if you have the full thing, to find out how much is below, you look up the exact z-score you've got. So 0.8 right here was 78.81. But to find the above, if you're not given the whole chart, you do 100 minus. But if you do have the whole chart, there is another trick. I'm going to look at negative 0.8. And if I look at negative 0.8, I get 21.19, which is right here. So if you've got the full chart, you have both bits of information without having to do the arithmetic. Okay? But that's only if you have the whole thing. All right, so let's look at this. Let's find the percentile for 1.4. And again, try to get this to focus. There we go. All right, for 1.4, I go find 1.4 here, which is 91.92. So part A is 91.92. For part B, where we find out what's above, we either do 100 minus 91.92, or if you have the whole chart, you can go look at negative 1.4. Negative 1.4 is right here, 8.08. Okay, remember, if we're doing the percent above and the percent below, you should be able to add those together and get 100%. Okay, so keep that in mind as you're doing these. All right, a z-score of negative 0.4. So I go to negative 0.4, which is right here, is 34.46. So 34.46% of items are below that value. And above 100 minus 34.46, which is the same thing as the z-score for positive 0.4, 65.54%. Okay, and then a z-score of negative 1.8 would be 3.59%. Okay, and then part B would be 100 minus 3.59, which is the same as the z-score for the percentile for positive 1.8, 96.41. Not too bad, I think. Okay, now if we want to find the percentage of data items between two items in a normal distribution, we're going to convert each item into a z-score if we need to, and then we're going to use the chart to find the percentile for each one, and then we subtract them. It's not so hard. Okay, so let's say we have a z-score of 0.3. 0.3 corresponds to 6179. And a z-score of 2.1. 2.1 is 98.21. So to find the percentile, the percent between 98.21 minus 61.79, and that gives you 36.42%. Of all the data is between those two scores. Okay. Z2 and Z3. Z2 is 97.72. And 3 is 99.87. So 99.87 minus 97.72 gives me 2.15% of all the data is between those two z-scores. All right, negative 1.2 and positive 1.2. Negative 1.2 is 11.51. Positive 1.2 is 88.49. So subtract. And you get 76.98%. Negative 2.2 and negative 0.3. Negative 2.2 is right here, 1.39. And negative 0.3, 38.21. So subtract to get 36.82% of all data is between those two z-values.